day, Lionhearts. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. Today we're coming to you from Raleigh, North Carolina, and as you can see right here, we're on the campus of North Carolina State University. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. I wanted to start our vlog here today at the William Neal Reynolds Center because this used to be the basketball facility for the NC State basketball team. And their whole world changed for the better in 1980 when a man named Jim Valvano, Jimmy V, accepted the coaching position here at NC State. Inside these walls, when he met with his players for the first time, he birthed the dream. He told them, I can see it. I can see us as the champions. I can see us up there cutting down those nets. If you buy into my dream, if my dream becomes your dream, we'll do this. And his players for 4 years battled through, not having any success, until 1983, when Jim Valvano, against all odds, would take a Cinderella team to the NCAA championship, win it, and his team would now be considered the greatest sports moment in NCAA history. Now they actually honored Jim Valvano here with a statue, so we're gonna check that out, and then we're gonna go out to his grave and I'm gonna tell you his story and how he sadly passed away. And right here is the statue of Coach Valvano, Jimmy V, as he was known, holding that net that he promised the guys, buy in and you'll be champions. God, I wish I could walk inside there and just look at the court, just to think of those memorable moments, because even after they won it, they had a 10-year reunion here when he was extremely sick and all the players knew that he was going to pass away and this would be the last time they ever saw him, and he gave another just amazing inspirational speech inside there. Well, holy cow, I just tried the doors and they're actually open, so let's go look at the court. This is amazing. Look at all the memorabilia here. Wow. And then it's got Jim Valvano's quote right up there as you're walking in. It says, don't give up, don't ever give up. And there it is. Jim Valvano's championship and that net that he promised they would get to cut down. So cool to see. And it looks like they've actually named this the Jim Valvano Arena. I didn't know that. So here's the court that Jim would have birthed that dream on and given his final, well, not his final speech because he did a really famous one on ESPN, but where he would have given that send-off to his players where he said, this team taught us so many things. He said, me personally, they taught me how to hope. That if you didn't have hope, you didn't have anything to drive you. And he said, and then they taught me you had to have dreams, because dreams give you something to work towards. They give you something right in front of you that you're trying to accomplish. And then he said, and the third thing that they gave me was love. He said they taught me how to love, because Jim Valvano was not the average coach for this day. Most basketball coaches in the collegiate circuit were very reserved, quiet. They didn't show a lot of emotion on the court. Jim was Italian from New York, and he showed it when he was happy, he showed it when he was upset, but one thing that was amazing about him is he was the eternal optimist. Like it says, never give up, don't ever give up. He really believed that, and he would coach the players by saying, when so-and-so gets on the free throw line, we're going to do this next. It was never if he makes the shots, it was always when he makes the shots, this is what we'll do next. So cool to get to see this and to get to stand on these floors. And here's the poster from that 1983 championship. They were playing Houston Cougars, and at that time, Houston was just thought to be completely unbeatable. They had Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, had just an amazing, amazing team. Phi Slamma Jamma. But against all odds, Cinderella, Jim Valvano won it. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is one of my all-time kind of saddest vlogs to do because I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jimmy V. I heard about his story many years ago, probably 10 years ago. And when I hear him talk, when I go back and listen to those speeches, it does make me tear up because he's just so positive and so motivating. I think Jimmy's right up here. Well, here he is, right here by the street. Nice and easy to find. For the many, many visitors, I imagine, that he receives. Talk about beloved. Oh, it's such a great quote to have on there. James Thomas Valvano, take time every day to laugh, to think, to cry. Devoted husband to Pamela, loving father to Nicole, Jamie, and Leanne. So Jimmy V, the beauty of Jimmy V was that when he was just an eternal optimist, he learned from his dad from the earliest age. His dad always believed in him. No matter what Jimmy said, he believed in Jimmy. And Jimmy said when he got his first coaching job, he always wanted to be a coach. And he got this job and he told his dad, hey, I just got hired to be a coach and I'm gonna take this team to the championship. And his dad said, great, I'm gonna pack my bags, I'll be there with you. And Jimmy said, no matter how many times I failed, my dad always believed in me. And he literally had his bags packed for years. He would always say, year after year, when things didn't go my way and I'd say, oh, I failed, I let you down, my dad would say, my bags are packed for next year. And so Jimmy he always looked at that. And he said he learned when he was 16, he went to a basketball camp and he heard someone say, God must have loved ordinary people because he made so many of them. And Jimmy said, it dawned on me, oh my gosh, he's right. There are so many ordinary people. And then the man followed it up by saying, and every single day, ordinary people do extraordinary things. And that became Jimmy's philosophy for life, was that, you know, you plus motivation equals success. And that if he believed something would happen, he could make it happen. So this would all come into play after he left Rutgers and would accept the job at North Carolina State. And he would come in to the 1980 class and tell them, I believe we are going to be champions. If you buy in, if you see yourself cutting down the net, we'll do it. And he said he took this so far, even to the point where they would have a practice where there was no practice involved physically. He would just have the players come in and practice cutting down the nets. Because he said, once you do it, once you see yourself doing it, you're really gonna believe it. You're gonna buy into it. And the players would say, you know, at first we did it and it was really awkward. I mean, we're out there celebrating for nothing and we're cutting down this net. And then after a couple of times, it started to feel right and it didn't feel weird. And we started to believe that we could do it. And for the 1980 season, 1981, 1982, the team wasn't doing any better than any other team. And at the time, University of North Carolina, coached by Dean Smith, was really the team to beat. They were college basketball. And you have to understand that this was a different time in college basketball, much different than now. I mean, this was a time in basketball where players, when they went to a college, they stayed all 4 years. There was a loyalty to their team and to their teammates and to their coach, and that they wanted to do something. They wanted to accomplish something, whereas now guys will play for like 1 year and then they'll take off to the draft, or maybe 2 years, but they never stayed for 4 years. During this time, that was the case. People were staying. This was the time during 1983, this was Michael Jordan was playing, James Worthy, you had Akeem Olajuwon, you had Ralph Sampson, people like that. These were people who would go on to be some of the greatest basketball players to ever live. And so Jimmy V took them into this 1983 season. They won a couple of games, and then their star player, Derek Whittenburg, broke his leg. And he was out for a few weeks, and they took a slide. They lost, and they lost, and they lost, and they had accumulated 10 losses, which in most terms would tell you, hey, season's over. But Jim Valvano didn't buy into that. Jim Valvano believed that ordinary people could do extraordinary things, and he told these guys, we can still do this. We can do this. And those players that he had sold the dream to their freshman year, they were now seniors, and he's telling them, look, if we can win the ACC tournament, we can still be in the NCAA. And if we can just hang around, we don't have to stomp these teams, we don't have to be in control the whole game, we just gotta hang around, you know, just kind of float around, hang around, stay competitive in the game, and then who knows at the end of the game what'll happen. Anything can happen, and we might just squeak out a victory. And that basically became what happened. He would go into these games against all odds, against teams that were on paper far more superior, and somehow he would win it. So he takes them to the ACC. They end up winning it. They beat Ralph Sampson, which nobody thought could be done. They win that, and then they get to advance into the NCAA tournament. And through this, once again, they're the underdogs. Nobody thinks they can win. This is, you know, a team that now Derek Whittenburg's back. They're starting to win a little bit, but they just think the season is shot, and there's no superstar players on this team that are going to carry it without Derek Whittenburg, and who knows how good he'll be once he comes back, that kind of mentality. And they go into the NCAA championship, and they win. And they're winning, and they're not winning easily. They're going into overtime in a lot of these games, and they're having bizarre occurrences. I mean, Michael Jordan fouls out of games. You know, you got things like that that are going on that, you know, had those maybe not been the case, it was almost like just the team of destiny. And there was just this whole thing with Jim Valvano, who believed, you know, hey, if we can keep it close, once we get to the end of the game, he implemented something people didn't do then, which was he would intentionally foul with a close game, or even where they were losing. He would foul the other team, banking on the fact that they were going to miss the free throws, and just keep telling these guys, hey, once they miss the free throw, this is what we're going to do. It was never if, it was always when. He made these guys believe that it was going to happen. He got them all in. They get down to the championship game. They're playing Houston, and this is a team that's on paper the greatest team in the country. Most of the players went off to be big time players, if not NBA Hall of Famers. They go into this game, and the first half, Jimmy V is just stomping it to him. He goes into the half winning the game, and Houston comes out of halftime with a new strategy where they're just sending the ball to Olajuwon, sending it to him, and he's just racking up points. But since they played the game in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the altitude got to him, and Olajuwon had to go to the bench and start sucking in oxygen, taking in oxygen. And Jimmy V saw this as just a time to pounce. And like I said, it was just one of those, he would say during this whole tournament, survive and advance. We don't have to stomp them, we just have to survive and advance. And so that's what he's telling these guys. We've done it all the way up till now. This is our moment. This is our pedestal in front of the entire world. This is where we get to show who we are and what we are and how we feel and how we believe. And it comes down to literally the last play. And Derek Whittenburg shoots an air ball, but before it can actually become an air ball, his teammate jumps up, grabs it, stuffs it in. The buzzer goes off, and NC State wins the championship. To all people's disbelief, Jim Valvano's dream, what Jim Valvano sold these guys, became absolutely true. See, personally, I believe that not only Jim's constant optimism was a driving force, but he truly loved his players. He truly loved people. He truly believed that he could take any kid and turn them into a good person, into a good player. He just felt he had that, and he felt that he could pass that on to them. And you would see it during the games. He would be hugging his players, or after the games, like running. He was the first one out to the court to hug his players, and you could see him saying, "I love you." And this was just one of those things all the players would say later on. he felt like a father, because we knew no matter what, he believed in us the whole time, 100%. Even when we didn't believe in ourselves, he believed in us. And then Jimmy V eventually left coaching, became a broadcaster, because he just had this huge personality. Once he won the championship, he went from being a very, very small fish in a big pond to being a very flashy fish in a big pond. I mean, I would equate him, when you watch him, he's a lot like, he has like this swagger of Dean Martin, just this likability, and he was this Italian from New York, and very jovial and happy, and just, I don't know, you just very charismatic and very likable. And so once he had won the championship, so many people were reaching out wanting him to do speeches and talks and be different places, that he just literally didn't have time to coach the team. He kind of fell into loving that, and so he became a broadcaster, and was a broadcaster for a few years, and then sadly found out that he had a terminal form of cancer that was going to kill him. So they told Jim Valvano that he had, if he did chemo, he would have up to a year to live. If he didn't do chemo, he would have somewhere around 10 months to live. But he was a fighter. He was the eternal optimist. And that was his plan for this. He said, when I beat the cancer, this is what I'm going to do next. No matter how much it ravaged his body and how weak he got, he just kept saying, I'm going to fight this until the end, because it can't take my heart, it can't take my soul, and it can't take my mind. Jim valiantly fought this, and even was named Arthur Ashe Man of the Year, and gave this impassioned 10-minute speech, just telling people, go out and make the best of every day. Go out and, like he says on here, take time every day to laugh. Find something that brings you joy. Find something that makes you laugh. Find something that makes you think. And find something that makes you be emotional, something that makes you cry. And if you can find something that does all three, well, that's a very, very fulfilling day. Rest in peace, Jim Valvano. Every day, ordinary people do extraordinary things. Now, that eternal optimist, that fighter in Jim Valvano, didn't leave with his physical form, like he said, because it wouldn't take his mind, it wouldn't take his heart, and it wouldn't take his soul. So in his last few months, he became very good friends with a competitor, the coach of Duke, Mike Krzyzewski. And Mike became someone who was just completely indispensable. He would, every moment he had, be visiting Jim in the hospital, spending hours with him, crying with him, talking basketball with him, just making his last days great. And Jim Valvano was someone who decided in his last days that even though he couldn't be here, didn't mean that the fight couldn't go on. And so he decided he wanted to form a cancer foundation, the V Foundation. And he asked people in this impassioned ESPN speech to donate money to this foundation, help fight cancer, because, like he would say, it won't save my life, but it could save my kid's life. And in the end, that was really the only time that Jim was an optimist, was when Mike Krzyzewski said, they want you to be the Arthur Ashe Man of the Year. And he said, I don't want to go to that. I don't want to be honored. I'm fighting the fight of my life. And I'm not going to get to see my daughters walk down the aisle. That's what matters to me. And they told him, Jim, you have to come. You gotta be there. You earn this, and it will just motivate other people. And so he went out, and nobody thought that he would give that speech. It wasn't planned. In fact, Mike Krzyzewski flew on the plane with Jim and his wife and said that Jim was throwing up the whole way. And he said, I just couldn't believe, there was never a thought that he was ever going to do any kind of talking or anything. And then he went up there off the cuff and was just the lovable Jim Valvano that we always knew. I implore you, if you've never watched him speak, to go on YouTube and just type in Jim Valvano, hit play, and see what you think. I think sometimes there are just people that are so inspiring that they help the rest of us kind of remember what it's all about, and he was that guy. Well, we're gonna call it a day here from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm so glad that I got to come out and finally pay my respects. They did a really fantastic 30 for 30 on this team a few years ago. I can't remember when it was, but I believe, if I remember right, I think actually the episode was called Survive in Advance. So go check it out, but wow, what a motivator. So thank you Jeffrey Tollison and Jennifer Schweitzer for becoming my newest Patreons. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for giving Coach V your respect and time. Have a great night, and goodbye.